Hi. Hi. I'm here with my buddy Mo. My little cow cat Mo is here with me, and we are doing another episode of My CIRS Story, um, in which I talk about CIRS, chronic inflammatory response syndrome, and other random diagnoses that I am living with and learning about. Goodbye, Mom. If you want more information about what CIRS is, go ahead and listen to episodes 1 and 2 and any of the other ones, really. This one today, I really want to Mo. Mo. Hi. He's taken to, he's really a water based cat and loves water of all kinds. So, from the shower, from the toilet, from drinking glasses, from water bowls, doesn't matter what. He will, he's moving over to the shower right now to tell me that he really needs for it to be turned on. But that won't happen until tonight. Okay. So, this episode is less, I think, less about the details, the specifics, the facts about my chronic illness, and more about the um, anecdotes, I suppose, about the importance of joy, uh, excitement, pleasure. What are some other? Connectedness, hope. So I want to talk about those things today because I feel like I don't know I don't know about any of y'all, other people out there who have chronic illness or experience grief or loss on the regular, but it's those things are oftentimes really elusive, really hard to find, and I am actually coming to you in a space of where I have been experiencing deep loss and grief for the last couple months, and the last couple days in particular, they've really shown up for me. And so that's actually part of me making this video, is to remind myself and maybe you about the ways that I can find joy, that I can find pleasure, that I can find hope, excitement even, um, while all of those other things are still existing, right? So this is not if you were looking for toxic positivity, this is not the place to be. Go somewhere else. There's plenty of other videos about that. But this is about the other side of the grief coin, about balancing what can be really devastating, um, challenging emotions with other ones that are a little bit lighter. So, joy. When I think about joy, I don't ever plan what I'm going to say on these videos. Actually, that's not true. Last year, I was going back through and I had like all these notes and stuff. The ones that I'm doing now, I'm not planning. And so you're going to see a little bit more of real time, like here. So, um, of course, it's not going to be mirrored back to you, but that says interdependence. And actually, that's a great place to start. So this is the word of the month for my patrons. We do, I've started according to the zodiac seasons, a word of the month. And so we had in Cancer season, it was nourish. In Leo season, it was express. And now for Virgo season, it's interdependence. And that's actually, when I think about what brings hope and connectedness to me and my life, it is knowing that we are all connected, remembering, and not just the humans, right? Because sometimes chronic illness can be so isolating. And so when I look outside, even on days when I can't go outside because the pollen counts are so high and I will like, throat will close up if I go outside, even if I just notice the trees and the familiar hummingbirds that come by, and they will like come up and flutter in front of my window to be like, hey, what's up? How you doing? The doves that come out on my porch out here, even a sharp-shinned hawk, I think is what it was called. Um, and just remembering that like there's a bigger world out there and that we are all dependent on each other, um, and that we can slip into codependence. A lot of us do, especially humans, where it becomes more of a harmful relationship. And we can also slip into independence and hyper independence, which I've seen so much in the chronic illness community, because there's often a lot of people who can't or don't want to help us. And so then we just learn to rely on ourselves and become so self sufficient that we push away other people. And so interdependence just reminds me that we need each other. We need each other, and not in this toxic way. It can get toxic sometimes, but just a phone call to check up on a friend, or recognizing that like the trees outside are giving me oxygen to breathe, and so I need to be kind to them. And like I will pour out. I was at the gas station the other day filling up with my friend, and we were filling up my my car's tires with air, and they like turn on the water at the same point or at the same time for some reason. So there's like a water hose and an air hose, and we didn't need the water. Um, and so instead, while my friend was putting the air in my tires, I took the hose and I watered the trees and the plants around, because I live in the desert. They always need more water, and the water was just being wasted anyway. So that to me is another sign of like, hey, I know you're helping me. I want to help you. I want to figure out a way that we can exist together. Um, interdependence. Anyway, also, I guess now that I have this out, this is, I was not intending to like advertise my Etsy shop, but here we are. This is a journal that I made. It's called Dreams. It's got a poem in the front that one of my patrons inspired. I think it's also in the back too. Anyway, that's not the point of why I was opening this up, because this Dreams journal also holds a lot of things, like little artistic things, and I started doing gratitude lists. So I'm just like flipping through all of the gratitude lists I've done, and they're in like different colors, and some have little drawings on them, like this one that has a little candle at the bottom. Um, yeah, and so for a little bit, that was one of the rituals that I brought into my life that reminded me about gratitude. I would sit there at the end of the night and just think about all the things I was grateful for. Sometimes it was, well, here we go. Here's a random Thursday gratitude. Messages from universe through my voice. That's it. Sometimes it's one line. Um, Sometimes it's a bunch of things. It says going inward, slow sunny walks, a new familiar voice, creative social share, universe, spiritual paths, a restful night's sleep, a bath, writing my truth, a few moments to chat with a friend, solitude, the song, patience, yin yoga, feral energy, mom, my friend, inner knowing, boundaries, music therapy. So like that's interesting. As I'm reading through my gratitude list, I'm remembering also a lot of the things that bring joy and connectivity. And this is a feedback loop here too, because in moments like now where I'm I've been having symptom flares recently, and it's very easy to get the brain in those neural pathways that we know of, the ones that are like the doom and gloom, right? And it's a lot harder to redirect them. And so when I have physical things like this to look at and read and say the words out loud, my brain hears that and my body attunes to it, my body remembers. So that's part of it. That's one of the things I do. I'm also looking up on the wall that's by my desk. I'm in a different orientation today. I wanted to sit on the floor because that feels grounding to me. But by my desk, so this is something when I was doing my coaching certification, I was coached by a peer in my class, and I coached her as well. Um, and one of my action steps for the week, for my goal, which was to bring, I think it was like to bring play and fun more to the center of my life. I think that's what one of my SMART goals was. And I I just wrote down this list, and it's at the top of it says, remember to have fun. And actually, I'm gonna show it to you. I'm gonna just pull it down off the wall for a minute. So again, it's backwards, but whatever, you get the point. So this is remember to have fun, dance, which, you know, anyone who knows me knows that I love dance and movement as well. Make it silly. Make whatever it is silly. Dress it up. Play. Sing. Color outside the lines. I have all of my coloring books over here as well, which are another tool that I use. Laugh out loud. So I learned, that was such a fake laugh, and I was learning and remembering recently about how, people talk about nervous laughter. It's actually a regulation tool because of the way that like the air is moving through, and it's like helps stimulate the vagus nerve, and it's the way that like the diaphragm's contracting when you're laughing, that like even if there's not anything funny happening, sometimes I will just and then it actually gets, because it's so silly and it sounds so funny, it actually prompts more laughter. I think there's something to be said that when my friend visited me a couple weeks ago, they were here for only 5 days, but we laughed the majority of the time they were here. And when I went into my appointment with my acupuncturist, like a couple days after they left, I was like, I feel like I've been altered on a physiological level. Um, and they were like, yeah, that's probably true. So, laughter as medicine, um, like giving my body that positive feedback loop of, just try it with me. And it's with the shaking and the bouncing too, which is also really regulating. So I suppose that's another tool too, right? What else is there? I've got my coloring books, um, which, my gosh, I used to color before getting sick, or probably in the process of getting sick without really realizing it. And I got rid of all my coloring books, most of my books, when I did the great mold purge of 2021 where I got rid of most of my stuff after I got sick. And this spring, when there was big super bloom happening here in the desert, a very dear friend, soul friend, sibling friend of mine sent me these coloring books, and I can't explain what that has done for me. Both just like giving my brain something to focus on that is what's the word? I don't know, just something to focus on. Maybe that's it. Something to be more present with, and it slows down my thoughts. When the body is actually moving, so it's moving some energy, and I'm creating things, and I can really see just like the, here we go. We're gonna just do a little show and tell. I can see like the reflections of where I was at in each moment when I was coloring all of these different mandalas here. Like some of them are just so bright and vibrant, and others have different colors in them. This one's really cool because another thing that I do is I'll send pictures of these to my friends, and one of my friends said, when I sent this one to them, they said, "Ooh, that gives electric but stable." And from that came a poem, right? So there's creativity, I think, is what I'm trying to get to here, is that it's, I was just looking at the poem here because I opened to it. Creativity is what helps both for me to feel some of the more shadowy emotions and give an outlet for them, and also to bring joy and pleasure and connectivity, right? Because like I'm sharing these things with you, I share them with my friends, I post them, I share them with my patrons. It's, it's a way to be connected to the greater flow of everything. So electric but stable is this little poem I just spat out. I actually spat it out in a couple days, so it's disjointed, but I'm going to read parts of it. They don't really go together, but they kind of do. But here it is. Scent of freshly saturated creosote penetrates these apartment walls as I sit right knee bent 90 degrees, gently folded over left. Electric but stable, I am better able to weather these storms as they build and release. Electric but stable, I am now able to locate the ground on the way down. Thunder applauds. What are the odds? Who knew it'd be so different this time around? There's another part, but I'll keep that just to me. So, here's ones that, and there's the one I started. There's a bunch of, blank pages in here too, but lots of different colors, lots of different patterns in here, right? What ways can we express ourselves? How do we get it out? Whatever it is that we need to get out. There's so much that bodies with chronic illness are asked to hold, a lot of times without much support, and these are sometimes just little alternate worlds, alternate realities I go into. Some of y'all use drugs and alcohol. I used to use alcohol, but I can't anymore, and so these are my outlets. Is here and here. And it does become a pretty meditative process for me to do. Um, this one, this one actually, it says grief is here and I am here too. Um, this was one that when I found out that a dear friend of mine died about a month ago. Um, I was in a group, and I'm part of this group healing experience, which is part of the connectivity and the pleasure. It's nervous system healing, the safe and sound protocol. I think I mentioned it in my last video, actually. Um, anyway, uh, we are often invited just to show up exactly as we are, and that this one was a couple days after my friend died, and I was just I'd been coloring this while we were in the group, and um, I guess there was a moment when I checked in where I said, grief is here and I am here too. And the facilitator reflected this back to me and said, wow, that is so beautiful to see you holding, what's the word? That you can recognize grief is here. It might not be fully in your body, but that I, as a full person, and am also here too. That grief is not taking over me. I am here. And so I just wrote down those words on this mandala that I was coloring at the time. Right. See, when I don't have a plan, things just kind of happen, right? We're going. I'm talking about all the different tools as we just go through this coloring book here. Let's see if anything else comes up as I go through. There's a lot of blank pages. Oh, here's another one. Gay. I mean, I guess that's another thing is like being able to find, speaking of gay, being able to find groups that are going to allow pleasure into my life. So I do some freeform dancing in a local park here. I think that was the last one. And if anybody's interested in the book, this is what the book is, coloring book. I started going to freeform dance because dancing is something that brings me so much pleasure um, and a lot of other emotions. It allows a lot of other emotions to rise and move through this body. Um, and so freeform dance is something where I can be around other humans. We're outdoors in a park, so as long as the pollen is okay for me, I can go, and I've had some really big warm heart hugs with strangers in the park. And there was one time I went, and this person who's an Aquarius, an air sign, I'm a Gemini, an air sign as well, we kind of were like, we found each other. And they showed me this space on the dance ground where there was kind of like a little indentation, um, and it was a little bit more like grass covered. So in the desert here, we don't have a lot of parks that have grass, but this one did. And they pointed out the little like roots, like little bumps of roots that were there, and we noticed that that's a place where a tree had been, and that the root structure was still there, kind of holding it. Um, and we just kind of stood in the tree stump portal and just like felt the energy of it, and connected with each other. And so again, kind of back to that interdependence, all of us. Having the ukulele around, even if I don't know clearly don't know the chords, I pick it up and it's fun to experiment. listen to the different sounds that come out of it. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to share with you in this video. I think maybe the most important thing, especially for other folks with chronic illness, is to remember that joy exists and that we can access it. Pleasure exists, we can access it. Connectivity, love, excitement, hope, all of those things exist, and we are allowed to. We deserve to. Not we are allowed to. It's our right to be able to access that. And sometimes we need to get more creative in the ways that we access it when we're navigating life with chronic illness. And I think it's important to find the other people, the other humans that are going to bring that about for us. And the flip side of that is also being really boundaried and being able to say no to the things that don't bring us joy. I had to cut out a couple of really close relationships in my life because they were bringing more anger and frustration and sadness and grief and all of these things that I was already feeling. They're bringing more of that than the joy and the pleasure, the fun, the play. And so I think also there's this discernment there, right? If we are already dealing with eliminating so many toxins from our lives, knowing you can never completely eliminate all the toxins, right? To really look to the relationships that are in our lives, that we have allowed into our lives for one reason or another, knowingly, unknowingly, and figure out which ones deserve to be around still, that are going to uplift, that are going to support and hold and be containers for the joy, be containers for the excitement, the hope, the love, the shared experiences of those things. Also that are going to be containers to hold the grief and the anger. I want to be really clear that I don't want to dip into the toxic positivity here, right? Like the relationships that can hold and witness and see all of those things, and that aren't producing anger and grief and all that. See the difference, right? So those are things I've been doing for myself. I wish I could say it's been easy. It's not. Choosing to live a different way than I've known my entire life it's hard. and it's hard for any of us. And I think that's one of the things that chronic illness comes here to teach us, is to, chronic illness is an asshole a lot of the times. And sometimes it just wants us to redirect our path. I'm using us on the royal we a lot, and I realize I don't like that. And so I want to revert back to me. This is what works for me. Because I don't ever want to be preachy. And I realized I was getting a little preachy. And I don't like that. So I think that's it for now. I'm going to check in, see if anything else is coming up, wants to be shared about joy, excitement, pleasure, gratitude, love, connection. Oh, here's the last thing. A reminder, this is something I need to remind myself a lot, that everything is temporary. And, sometimes when I remember that everything is temporary, it's harder to access the joy and the pleasure because I'm like, oh, it's just going to go away. And also the flip side of that, when I know everything is temporary, when I'm in the fear and the anger, um, it's just helpful to come back to and remember that this won't last forever. That feelings, just like the tides, they come and go, they ebb and flow. And I think it is healthy to develop that kind of a relationship even with happiness and joy and excitement, right? To know that it is fleeting, and so enjoy it while it's here. And sometimes I think it can make it even more enjoyable, knowing that, like, I get to experience this right now. I get to experience this right now. So that's it. That's all I got. If you like what you saw here, if anything resonated with you, please let me know in the comments below. Like the video, subscribe to my channel. I'm gonna start doing these more often. Share it with a friend, especially if you got a friend with chronic illness. But really, if you just have a friend who's a human who's alive today. Until next time.